Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day that we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. So earlier this week, I discussed us talking about just getting on track and really finding ourselves back from COVID-19 and what does that look like financially? What does that look like emotionally? What does that look like spiritually? And so we are going to go live with Chris Conroy, who is a financial advisor and who has a free budgeting spreadsheet on his link, and it's free, and it has all of the, if you don't know how to use Microsoft Excel, and it's super difficult for you and you don't know how to budget doing that, all of the numerical values is already in there. All you have to do is plug in your numbers. It's so dope. I just checked it out, and I just downloaded it to my Google Drive, and I think you would absolutely love it too. So, hey, Chris Conroy is about to come on. We need to find him, and as soon as he does, we're gonna have a real conversation about what does it look like to bounce back from COVID-19, and how do we, it's going to be completely different moving forward. It's going to, our whole lives are changed after this lockdown, after working from home. Hey, Rodney, how are you? Peace and blessings. Um, is there a way to invite him? Because I feel like, there we go. Hey, Reggie B. We're trying to get this all worked out so we can get Chris Conroy on here and start discussing how do we bounce back? How do we start over? What is our new normal? And how do we protect ourselves from, hey, my loves, how do we protect ourselves moving forward from ever being in this position like this again, right? So wherever you are, if you're uncomfortable with where you are financially, if you're uncomfortable with where, like, you have to stay in your house. Are you comfortable in your house? Are you having fun in your house? Are you enjoying where you are? If not, how do we, like, there's a possibility that this could happen again in 5 years, in 10 years. And so where are you going to be mentally, emotionally, financially, physically in your house? What's that going to look like if this ever happens again? And one thing that we know for certain, especially with our government, is if things that are unprecedented seem to become the norm. And so if it's something that's never happened before, it's all of a sudden, Chris, I'm already here, baby. Our government is like, oh, unprecedented. This has never happened before, but we made it happen. So if we can do it once, we can do it twice. And I feel like we've seen this over and over again. Hey, Chris Conroy. So we are going to speak with Chris, and Chris is going to get us through and give us some tips and tricks on how to move forward with this new normal, and what does this look like, and how do you prepare yourself, and how do you get ready for the possibility of something like this taking place again in the future. Like, how are you financially? How is your health mentally, emotionally, financially, and how do we make sure that you are never in the same position if something like this goes down again? Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hello. How you doing, Miss Taylor?
Super fantastic.
That's cool. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being available.
For sure. So, what was the question that you were just asking? I thought you were
Just
really good.
no. So we were really just talking about, where are you financially? You know,
Mm-hmm.
where are you mentally? Where are you emotionally? Like, where are you in your home? And if this happens again, do you like where you're living? Do you like where you are financially? Do you like where you are? Like, how are we? Our whole world is changing after this, right? Because
Sure.
the way that we are educating our children is changing literally overnight. The way that we are working as a society is changing literally overnight. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even though these are unprecedented times, we know from history that if it's never happened before and it happens, it's a possibility it's going to happen again. So
Right.
once we get past the unprecedented part, it's like, oh, this is our new norm. And so how
Mm-hmm.
do we protect ourselves from this new norm? And how do we prepare ourselves
Yep.
moving forward?
No doubt. Those are all really great questions. I mean, I think I'll start by like parsing like the question that you asked, which is first and foremost, like how do you deal with something that's unprecedented, right? And so I think in this situation, so the first and foremost, you got to forgive yourself and forgive other people, and be patient with yourself, be patient with other people, be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, because we've never done this before, right? Like not every no, never in our lifetimes have we all decided that we're going to pack up and just live in our homes, almost close to 24/7 and try and figure out how to do life without going outside and staying 6 feet away from each other and all that. And so there are changes that everybody's experiencing, but in order to be able to do that in a way where we reduce the stress or are able to at least deal with the stress that comes with it, I think it's just finding small ways to, number one, like be kind to yourself, do things for yourself, spend a little time, being able to just do something every single day that's going to support your mental health. So like I'm outside, I was just outside on my porch, man. I was trying to get some vitamin D, some sunshine out here, and then the clouds came through. So that kind of ruined my moment. But that was what I was trying to do today. I was trying to be intentional about making sure that I stayed healthy, making sure that I got exposed to something that was going to boost my immune system, and just making sure that I'm taking care of myself so I can take care of my family. You know what I mean? In terms of preparation, right? So just like the healthcare workers in the hospitals that we're relying on right now to help save lives and take care of the people that are sick, or are being impacted by COVID-19 or anything else that's happening. Because, oh, by the way, people are still, potentially having accidents and getting hurt. People still, might have a heart attack. People still might get in a car accident, right? These are all things that are real challenging. I saw someone just said take long walks around the park. That's a great idea, right? So preparing your body and preparing yourself to like for the long run to be healthy is really critical. And that way you stay out of the hospital and you stay out of places where the virus is being treated, and being dealt with right now. That's really important. And then just like those healthcare workers have that personal protection equipment, right? They have
Mm-hmm.
they have their PPE, the personal, like they have the face masks, and that they are hopefully getting more gowns and caps to help them prevent from getting the virus transmitted to them through the patients that they're helping.
Mm-hmm.
We individually, as individuals and as families, need to have PPE. So we need to have preparation, we need to have protection, and we need to be able to earn. And all those things are things that are kind of up in the air right now for a lot of people, but there are ways that we can start to get that back on track. And so when I say prepare, I mean budgeting, right? So if your finances are up in the air as a result of this, if you lost your job, if you lost hours at your part-time job, I'm sure that's impacting a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
already, right? People that are even on this call, right? It's impacted people that I know at work, right? It's impacted my family, my parents, my cousins, right? So it's things that, everybody in terms of their financial outlook has something that's a little bit up in the air. So the faster you can start to get a flexible budget prepared, in order to get through this, the faster you'll be able to put yourself on a track to come out of this better than most folks,
So
even if your finances are up in the air.
one of the things that I want to mention is even since young, I remember people saying, like, make sure you have enough reserves for 3 months
For
and make
sure.
sure you can pay your bills for 3 months in case you lose your job. And I think we as a society is like, yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's impossible. Who does that? But like this is real life. The reason why you need to
Mm-hmm.
be prepared for 3 months. And so there are some people that are prepared financially, and it's not easy, it's not difficult. It really breaks into their budgeting and disrupts everything,
Yeah.
right? But there are families that right now cannot afford to eat,
Yep. Yep.
can't afford the food at the corner store. And so, you know, you have a budgeting template
Yep.
on your Instagram.
Yep.
And I love it because I hate trying to do the mathematical equations, and you filled all that in for us and made it
Yeah.
super easy.
For sure.
How how does one begin, Chris? Like
Yeah.
starting from literally ground zero,
Yep.
right? And not having, right now, not having a job,
Yep.
being a month behind on your rent,
Yep.
maybe even a month behind on your mortgage. Like, how do I start saving now when I don't even have the money to pay the bills that are necessary for me to live?
Yep. So the first things first is number one, you got to take a deep breath and realize that you are not alone in the process, right? Like there's tons of other people that are going through it. Your situation is unique, but there are people that you can connect with, people that you can rely on. There are still systems in place to help you get through the next month, the next 2 months, whatever it is that you need. And there are resources that are out there. So that's one thing. We're going to be posting some of those resources on the Moving Forward channel starting over the next coming days, right? Where can you go if you need to get help with rent? Where do you go if you need to get help with your mortgage? Where do you go if you need to get help with food and food supplies, and you want to do it in a safe way, right? So there's all sorts of resources out there that are available, and that I definitely will recommend. So there's ways to supplement the budget or the finances you're losing in order to be able to take care of yourself and your family. So breathe easy, do whatever you can, right? If you're a praying person, pray. If you're a spiritual person and and you are more into meditation or whatever, make time to get your mind right and get positive, because that's the most important thing in a kind of a survival or a big change situation, is making sure you enter into things with an optimistic mindset. One. Two, the next thing I would do is just every household should have an income statement right now. Get it together, right? So
What is the income
an
statement?
income statement is very simple. It's all the income that you have, right? You put it in one column on a page. You draw a line down the middle of the page. On the left-hand side of the page, you write all of the income that you have coming into your house, even if it's zero, for the next month, okay? On the right-hand side of that page, what you're going to do is you're going to write all the expenses that you have and that you can think of for the next month, right? Everything. And that could be, something from, your car payment to your rent, to your lights, to your
What about my
gas,
Netflix?
your Netflix, perfect. Your subscriptions, get all those subscriptions out. Go through your phone, right? Backtrack through your phone and look at what's coming out of your account every month, and just write those joints right down the right-hand side of the page. That way you
So
know.
how does that work if I am a hustler and I got a side hustle? I sell these t-shirts.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I might make edibles on the side. I sell edibles, and these are I do sell t-shirts,
Yeah,
and there's somebody on the feed right now that does sell edibles,
no
and that's
doubt.
not their real job. But
Yeah.
what about our side hustles that don't have a set amount of income? I might sell 15 t-shirts this month and none next month.
Yep. So first of all, make sure that you are keeping your books, right? If you're selling t-shirts, make sure you get those numbers down. If you're selling them online, you're probably on a platform that will tell you how many shirts you sold, what the cost was on the platform, and how much overall income you earned from it. So get those numbers and then write them down on that income side of your page, because that is income for sure, and that you can rely on, right? Before it goes out the door, make sure you write it on the page. Second thing is, if you have income that's coming in the form of cash, you want to just put that in the envelopes, right? So if you are making something and you're selling to a consumer directly, and you're exchanging cash, or you're exchanging, or if you're getting it in Cash App or some kind of like PayPal or some kind of like online platform, put that keep that in your online platform. Don't spend it. Don't transfer it out. Or if you get it in the form of cash, put that in an envelope and put that to the
But I
side
need to
so you know you can
like
pay
I
it.
got gas. Like I need to get gas. So
Yeah.
I just got $25 cash for
Yep.
this t-shirt, but now I have to also put gas in my car.
So for obviously, if you got to go somewhere and you got to use that money, you're going to use that money. But you just want to be able to note and write down what you actually spent. Write what you got, right? Write what came in on the left-hand side of the page, right? What went out on the right-hand side of the page. So you're documenting everything that you did. What came in, what went out. What came in, what came out. That way you're going to be able to build a projection for the next month. And when I say projection, all I'm saying is you'll be able to look forward and say, this is what I think I'm going to be able to earn next month if sales stay the same. Or if you know that you're only going to be able to spend half the time selling your t-shirts that you would have normally been able to do, then you can project, hey, I won't have as much time to do my side hustle this month. That means my t-shirt sales are going to go down half, right? So if I'm planning for next month, if I'm doing my budget for next month, then I know I need to reduce that income on that side, right? Or increase it depending upon if I'm going to spend more time selling t-shirts, right? But first things first, before you do anything, is make sure you're tracking where all your money comes from on the left-hand side of the page. Track where all your expenses go on the right-hand side of the page, right? And make sure that you have that down, because what that's going to do is that's going to give you a week-to-week or a month-to-month total of what your total net income is. And net income is your income minus your expenses, right? Now, for a lot of us, and for some of us in situations where we've experienced a big loss of income, those numbers might turn out to be negative, right? That's called like being in the red, right? Because if you lose a lot of income and you still have bills to pay, and you look and you do that math from one side to the other, you might be in the negative, right? And so that's okay. That's not cause to freak out. That's just the cause to figure out, okay, now I need to hustle to earn. And I need to figure out a plan to make this extra money, right? And the good news is that there's a lot of people hiring right now, and a lot of people hiring from work that you can do from home. So for instance, Amazon, if you got an internet connection, or if you can get an internet connection and you got a headphone set, you can work for Amazon for their customer service call center, if that's something that you wanted to do, because they're hiring.
I'm about to apply right now. Where that at?
I'll put the link. I'll put another
You're
link.
joking. I'm so serious.
So there's a lot of, like, CVS they're looking for delivery drivers because they have medications that need to be delivered to people who are homebound right now, right? So I just got some medications delivered to my mailbox from CVS, right? That's the first time I've ever done that, but they're doing it for free. So CVS, if they want to make those free deliveries to their customers, they need to pay the delivery drivers in order to be able to do that. You got me? So there's definitely earning opportunities out there for people. And there's ways for people to get, if it looks like their expenses are going to be negative, there's a chance for them to put a plan in place to get that done, get that taken care of. So that's the P and the E, but there's another P in between, and that's protection, right? So first things first, you want to plan. So you want to have a plan, so you want to budget, you want to protect, and you want to earn. So we'll talk about the side hustle and the earning thing, although I think that's probably your forte. I think you got that more than anybody. You probably are somebody that I know that I really respect for being able to know how to be able to be an independent business person and get your own. I think for me, the thing that I'm really interested in is, are people protecting what they have, right? So do you have the proper health insurance in place? Do you have the proper disability insurance in place? Because, oh, by the way, if 1 in 5 of us, between the time that we're 25 to the time that we're 65, we will be disabled at some point in our lifetimes, right? We will be out of work for a period of time. And if my income all of a sudden stops, then my balance sheet goes in the red again, right? So I'm going to go negative because I won't be able to afford my expenses. But if I have protection in place, if I have a plan in place, if I have disability insurance in place that I own, not my employer, then I can make sure that my money keeps coming in on the month.
So that exists. I didn't know that existed, that you could get a disability plan out. Oh, we lost Chris Conroy. Well, so I learned a lot, first and foremost. I am not doing well in my budgeting. And I can't imagine that I'm the only one. Here he comes. Here he comes. So, one of the other things that I just learned is that you can get disability insurance outside of your employer. I never knew that. So if you have a side hustle, you can get some disability insurance.
Yep.
Is it expensive?
So it can be met to afford your particular budget, right? So
Okay.
the question is when you think about the cost of something, right, you have to determine what are the parameters that I'm trying to set up. Am I trying to cover myself for the next 10 years? Am I trying to cover myself for the next 20 years? Am I trying to cover myself for the next 30 years? Right? All of
I'm
that.
trying to cover myself for the next 365 days because I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So can you focus on something that short term?
Yes. So, and there's ways that you can figure out how to use both disability and life insurance in combination to make sure that you're taking your care of yourself in the short term. And then what the other thing that I would say in addition to that is be self-insured, right? So make sure if you find a side hustle and you find a way to set a little bit aside every month, that you're putting that savings away in a self-insurance account, right? So right now you can go to your phone and download the Marcus app. It's from Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs opened up a high interest savings account. Go ahead, download that thing, open up a Marcus account. You don't have to put any money in it. And then start, once you get that side hustle, make sure you put some of that money away immediately, right? Because what that'll do is if you stack that money enough over time, you'll be self-insured to a certain extent. Right. And just like you said from the top of the show, you want to have, right, the ideal situation where you're financially stable is when you have all your debts paid, when you have insurance in place, and number 3, when you actually have a 3 to 6 month savings account in place. Right. If you have all of those things, you can experience a financial shock to the system. Right. A shock meaning either you have a significant loss in your income because you lost your job or you lost your hours, or maybe you got sick, or you had an increase in your expenses because you're taking care of somebody who's sick, or you got hospital bills, right? We've all seen these crazy bills that have come out of the situation where people just go to the hospital, get tested, right, for COVID-19, right? And, I saw the article written the other day, this young woman went, didn't have any symptoms, got tested. She ended up with a $35,000 hospital bill just for that process, right? So because our healthcare system is not meeting the needs of the average American and hasn't been for quite some time, we got to be self-insured, right? And so the way I think about that is making sure that you have that disability insurance in place. If you can get that disability insurance in place, making sure you have your life insurance in place. And then in addition to having that life insurance in place, making sure that you have the correct health insurance in place too, that it covers more than the basic things that you need in order to be able to get the treatment that you need to get the best possible care for yourself and your family. All of those things take time, right? But having a plan for them is really critical in order to be able to make sure that you're doing everything, right? Because if you have a plan, that plan can get disrupted if you get sick or you get hurt or you lose your job or something like that, and then you're kind of out of it, right? You're up the creek, right? Or whatever it is. I'm trying to use my PG language.
We don't have to. We are fully vulgar on this show.
So yeah, that's having protection is critical because you want to be able to make sure your plan can stay in place. And that's what I would advise folks to be able to do.
Do you have any suggestions as far as a disability insurance? Do you have any suggestions? Can you repeat the account again, the high yield savings account?
So the high yield savings account, the one that I mentioned that's associated with Goldman Sachs, that's Marcus. So that you can literally go on the App Store. There's an app called Marcus. You can download that.
Like the name Marcus, like a dude Marcus?
Yes, like a dude Marcus. I think it might be with a K, but I can make sure I post it in my show notes afterwards too for people. The other thing too is that there's Capital One has a pretty good yield on their interest rates as well too, and you can open up like 13 different Capital One accounts, right? That's kind of the beauty of them too. So if you want to save for different things, like if you're saving for, I want to have my emergency fund, and then I also want to save for like a car, if I want to save for my house, my future house, or my mortgage, right? Then you can put those in different accounts in Capital One. That's another advantage. So when you ask like, you know, what's the best account to have or what's the best company to go with, it's going to be different from you for your personal situation, right? Because life insurance, disability insurance, all those kinds of things are highly dependent upon a process called underwriting, and every company has slightly different underwriting standards. And so that's really what's really going to matter is what's your health look like, what is your job, what's your current job, what's your current income stream, right? You know, what, you know, how long, if you, you know, do you have a high risk job, right? Do you work construction versus do you work in an office doing administrative work? Do you work in a warehouse? Things like that. So all those different things, right, are really taken into consideration with each different person in their plan. Also, you might have kids, so you might include them on your policy in some way, shape, or form. And there's options for that. Not every company has options for that. So it's really personalized for each individual.
So we went through budgeting. We went through preparing ourselves fiscally as far as insurance are concerned, life insurance. One of the things that if you could really touch on is the importance of like healthcare proxies and estate planning, especially in times like this where we're seeing, you know, people actually just not getting sick but dying. And Kobe Bryant, we learned, did not have his estate in order, and he had millions. So, you know, what does estate planning look like? I know you don't, that's not like the niche that you concentrate on, but where do we begin estate planning?
So where you begin, and again, I'll reiterate that I am not an estate planner, right? And I'm not an estate attorney, right? So any advice that I would give, I think I saw Nicole Iguehi on here. So she might know some estate planners and tax attorneys and things like that could hook you up. But from an estate planning standpoint, right, the most important things to understand is that you have you can as long as you have assets, you have an estate. Right. So if you have a car, if you own things, right, we all own things in some shape or form, right? You have an estate. If you have an insurance policy, if you have any of the disability policies we talked about earlier, you have an estate. You have something of value, right, that would potentially be able to be passed on to somebody else, right?
So what if I don't have anything, Chris? I'm a renter. I don't own my car. I'm leasing it. I have a little bracelet that my grandmother gave me, and I have a 401k. But I don't feel like I don't have an estate. Like I don't own anything. So if you have a
401k, you most definitely have an estate, right? So because your 401k should have beneficiaries attached to it, right? And if you were to pass away, then the beneficiaries that are noted in your 401k would receive or would have access to that money. In planning
so why do I need an estate planning if the 401k is going to be given to my beneficiaries?
Well, because now you can determine how it gets distributed to your beneficiaries, right? So the question with estates is oftentimes not if the money is going to get distributed, but when. So if you do not have a plan, right? So for instance, let's say you own a house and maybe a 401k, and you maybe have a car, right? And something happens and you, God forbid, and you pass away, right? Well, what ends up happening is that if you do not have a estate plan together that has an attorney attached to it or the power of attorney attached to it, that those assets will go into what's called a process called probate, which is what the probate court is attached to. And the probate process can take quite a bit of time, right? Depending upon what state you're in, depending upon where you're at. And so that is where things get really sticky for family members or friends or people who are connected to the person, right? And could be maybe expecting something from that estate. Again, we've seen, this stuff happens all the time, right? Kobe, Prince, right? For instance, there's been all sorts of crazy things that have gone on with his estate. It's really critical for people to make sure that they get a very detailed plan, estate plan in place, because when they do that, then they're preparing themselves for the eventualities that will happen, right? And you can always change it, right? You can always adjust it, but there's a lot of details within a plan, right? So I'll give you an example in Kobe's case. If you do not identify the beneficiaries to your plan, right, and when the money is supposed to be distributed, right? So you can have a beneficiary attached to your plan, but if you don't have a trust, or if you don't have a place where that money goes to get deposited, and that person is not of a legal age, then they need to actually have somebody who is administering that money on their behalf, right? And so if you don't have those details ironed out, then that money could get caught up in a probate process, or it could get, it could get stuck in that process, and it becomes problematic because there could be a lot of fights that happen over that sort of thing. So basically getting your estate plan in place is just meeting with a really good estate planning attorney, making sure you spend the money to actually do it, right? Again, there's different prices.
Don't go on Fiverr.
Don't go on Fiverr to get your estate planning attorney. It's not going to work out for you. I hate to tell it. But that, get connected to the right people, right? Get connected to the right people who can point you in the right direction. I had the privilege of being able to work with a Mass Mutual affiliate, Commonwealth Financial Group. We have a lot of great estate planning attorneys that are attached to our organization. Happy to recommend folks in that area if that's something that they're thinking about. But you get what you pay for in this arena, right? Unfortunately. So it's important to prepare and to invest in that future if and when you can. And again, people will work with you, right? It's about not being intimidated by the idea that you would have to pay for something, but knowing that there's a professional that's going to be by your side if and when you do, that will be able to take care of you. Just like you, when you go out and you help people find the right house for them, right? They know that they're investing in you, and they're investing in that relationship because it's going to pay off for them in the future. Same thing.
Well, I just want to be clear. Buyers never pay the agent.
That's correct.
I just want to be clear. I never get paid being your buyer's agent. But as far as being your seller's agent,
correct.
Yes.
And knowing that those closing costs, right, they're going to the help that you've received in order to be able to get that process completed, right? That's critical. So, yeah, man.
So we covered pretty much everything. I know one of a gentleman just said, make sure you have a will as well.
Yeah.
Really quickly, can you touch on the difference between like a will, an estate, a trust? Like testaments? Like these are a whole lot of words that I don't understand.
Yes,
so
and there's a whole lot of,
what is each one?
There's a whole lot of case law that's attached to it, right? So there's a whole lot of details. And those details change on a state-to-state basis, depending upon where you're at, right? But a will is just a document, and an estate is what you own, right? So the difference between an estate and a will is, so the estate essentially, if I'm going to use a metaphor for this, right? The estate is all the assets and the things that you have accrued in your lifetime, as well as debts as well too, right? That you may own, and the will is the directions that are given to determine what will be done with those if and when you do pass away, right? So the will is like the directions that you get out of the box to put together, some equipment, right? If you're putting together your couch, right, or whatever, you're going to get some directions for that. The will's going to tell you what to do. The assets are the actual thing, or the actual things that you own, or the things that you owe. Those are part of your estate, and they are the things that need to be managed, and they are the things that we need to tell people about in the will, and provide direction on what to do with them. Trusts, things like that, are a little bit more complex to explain because there's different kinds of them, right? But those are vehicles, or those are places where you can place assets under management. And for those assets to be kept outside of, a traditional bank account or mortgage account or something like that. It's explicitly so that they'll be released at a later date, or so they can be drawn down to be given to the people or the places or the institutions that you care about.
And the difference between life care proxy and a healthcare proxy and attorney.
Power of attorney.
So
a healthcare proxy is somebody who will have the ability to make decisions about your healthcare if you are not able to be contacted, or if you are not able to make decisions on your
Coherent.
own, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not coherent, right, if you were in a coma, and you weren't able to make decisions for yourself, if you were mentally impaired and not able to make decisions for yourself, if you were, if you had dementia and were not able to make decisions for yourself, your healthcare proxy would be making them on your behalf.
So this is critical.
Mm-hmm.
Who you make your healthcare proxy would either A, pull the plug,
Correct.
or B, pray about it and wait a little while. So be mindful of who
Yes.
you make your healthcare proxy.
Well, you can also make that a plan too. So you can put that in writing with your healthcare proxy, right? There are ways where you can draw up documentation to ensure that your healthcare proxy follows a specific set of directions, right? And follows your wishes if you are under some, if your ability to make decisions is impaired in any kind of way. So making sure that you and your healthcare proxy actually go over that document, and that an attorney actually looks at it as well too. That can also be a critical part of planning how you do your healthcare proxy. But me and my wife were introduced to this, right? We were introduced to this in the hospital, right? When one of us went in for a surgery, the nurse turned to the other and was essentially like, so do you have are you their healthcare proxy? And we both looked at each other like, oh yeah, we actually never actually took this time to do that, right? So that happened. That happened pretty early on in our marriage, right? But that's usually a stepping stone that every marriage undergoes, right? And so basically, having that in place will be really critical.
Okay, so really quickly, the question was, who do I go to get a will, a healthcare proxy, and or a power of attorney?
So the best place to go is to an estate attorney, right? So somebody who works as an attorney that helps manage estates for individuals. That's the number one place to go for that kind of information. And I'm happy to recommend folks in that area as well too, offline.
And aside from Chris recommending folks, I just want to tell you that there is a poor man's way of doing things as well. And the poor man's way
Google.
of doing things.
No,
no, it's not Fiverr. That is not it. If you can actually do a healthcare proxy, like there's templates online, there's templates for wills online, there's templates for trust online, but you definitely, if you don't know, if you have no idea of what you're doing, go seek a professional. Absolutely. That, again, Chris, you said something that I'm going to have to go back and rewind and write it down, because you said something like paying for a professional isn't about, coming out of pocket, but about knowing that there's a professional by your side that knows what they're doing. And I think that quote, I butchered it, was amazing. But you can write out a will and testament and have a notary notarize it and then mail it to yourself. That's the poor man's way of doing things. It's not honored in court as it would be if you were to seek a legal professional to help you. Your family still might be in probate. It still might be headaches. So you want to do things the right way to prevent any, headache or family drama that could take place in the future.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say on that is, again, this is not legal advice in any way, and I think, that's why I'm saying this is if you go to a state attorney, right, somebody who deals with power of attorney, someone who deals with this on a consistent basis, or just any really good general practitioner, general attorney, right? If you're able to go to them, they'll be able to point you in the direction of a person that can handle something like this, right? I tend to put much more reliance on personal recommendations rather than just doing an internet search nowadays, right? That might be a way to start the process, but you want to go to people who are in the know and understand people who are very good at this particular work, because quality matters in this circumstance, right? You get what you pay for, and you get the effort that you put out into this. I can't make any recommendations. I would say there is a major difference, though, between going to LegalZoom and downloading documents and actually going to a defense, or not a defense attorney, but an estate attorney who has done this for years on end, and has had dozens and dozens of clients that they've worked with and seen all different types of estates walk through their door, right? Make sure you go see somebody who's in the know, because there'll be a major difference between them and what they are able to provide, or what you're able to get for yourself. And again, just like you said, in court, there could be something that's missed that you wouldn't know that was missed because you haven't seen it before, because you're doing it on your own. It's the same thing as doing your taxes on your own, right? You might miss something. You might miss a big savings on your taxes that you didn't know about.
Thousands on the table.
Thousands. And that's why, we got an extra 90 days to do our taxes right now. So please go see a CPA, someone who's qualified to help you go do your taxes, right? That's another thing I would say as well too, is figure that out. But again, you get what you pay for. You get out of the process with the time that you invest in it. And so that's just part of the deal.
So one of the things I want to say, as far as like getting what you pay for, Chris has a free budgeting template on his Instagram. And even though it's free, it's worth hundreds, because somebody go ahead and filling in everything in advance, and all you have to do is plug in numbers. Is Chris, you saved my whole life.
Yeah, man. I mean, you don't need to know the math. You just need to know your numbers, right? Like I say, like, you're the CEO of you, right? So if you're the CEO of your household or whatever, right, you need to know your numbers in your household, right, in order to be able to run it effectively. And maybe math ain't the biggest strong suit, or something. I know a lot of my clients, they do not want to deal with math whatsoever. It's something that totally freaks them out, and I think that's totally fine. But it shouldn't be a hindrance at you being able to put a budget together and being able to look for financial independence. So that's definitely a start. So I appreciate you saying that, for sure.
Well, thank you, Chris, so much for your time. I know you are extremely busy, but I thank you for sharing the knowledge with the viewers, and I appreciate you. I love you, and we definitely should do this again to continue the education that people need. And right now we did, COVID-19. Are you prepared? Like, are you ready to move forward?
For sure.
Mentally, emotionally, financially, but these are conversations that need to be had all of the time.
100%.
And so we're not scrambling for knowledge, amidst a crisis. But, I spoke with Chris and Tayla before, and I was prepared. So I'm good. So I definitely would like to continue this conversation.
Yeah.
To prepare people. And so, what's the quote? Proper planning prevents piss poor performance.
Amen.
And a lot of people are struggling right now because they didn't properly plan.
Yep.
And so one of the first things Chris said when he got on here was, the first thing you need to do is forgive yourself and forgive others, because we have never seen anything like this before. And so, do not strangle your husband. Like, he's driving you crazy.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Your kids have to go back to school one day, okay? So just pray for that day. I know the homework and the homeschooling is I know. But we are here together. Forgive yourself. Forgive those around you. We definitely have never seen these times before. But best believe, in the United States, we probably will see these times again. And so I just want you to be prepared. And protect yourself. And so thank you so much, Chris. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. What website can they connect with you on?
Just hit me up on IG. I'm at Hey Chris Conroy. And I will make sure that I also include the link to my YouTube page so you can follow along with the moving forward story as we keep kind of updating people on how to deal with these changes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
All right, Tayla. Take care of yourself.
All right. Peace.
Peace.